The audience is not here anymore. They checked out. They're too cold, but they really are here, looking like. See what I'm saying? They was like no applause, no nothing. We here, right. But they're like we out here. So speaking of being out here, we had to cut the show right before it was getting really good. Rashad, you were talking about the types of races that we could be investing our resources in, both financial, probably being on the ground, the boots on the ground to make sure that we are helping to knock on doors, that kind of thing. What other tangible items can we give folks who are listening and saying, you know what, I really need some solutions? You know, I see all of the problems out here, but what are some other solutions we can engage in to move the needle politically? A couple of really clear solutions that right after the election, we developed this strategy of not directing our energy at Trump, because he's a 70-year-old guy who's shown us over and over who he is. Takes so much energy, too. But to direct it at the enablers, to the cultural, corporate, government enablers that make him possible to create the type of desertions and defections that will end his administration or leave him isolated. What's worse is not just what Donald Trump says, but it's all the people who remain silent and sort of use pragmatism to sort of go along with the get along to see as much as they can get out of it. And so, you know, right after Charlottesville, when we saw his sort of both sides comment, we ran a campaign going after the credit card companies and said, you can't have it both ways. You can't process fees on white supremacist sites, donations, paraphernalia to kill Muslims, all sorts of things you see on these sites, and have a relationship with our community. And we forced Amex, MasterCard, a bunch of companies to like basically eliminate nearly 60 white supremacist sites from being able to donate money to them for them to process fees. And so for people who are watching, I say we have to focus our energy on the enablers, and they can join us at Color of Change. They can just come to colorofchange.org. They can text the word FIGHT to 225568, the word FIGHT to 225568, and join us in the effort of trying to direct that energy at folks that need to be held accountable for Donald Trump so that we don't get amnesia about how we got here. We definitely can't afford to get amnesia. Absolutely. Melvin, one question I have for you. Folks ask me all the time how I got to where I am or how can they be like me or whatever. And I am often then challenged to, oh, you should run for office. That's not my calling, but it is yours. You ran and you won. What do you say to young people who are saying, you know what, I kind of want to run for office, but I don't have the money yet? Collective PAC and Color Change can help with that part. But what else would you give them? What kind of guidance would you give a young person interested in running? You know, for me, there's a whole lot of change that needs to happen in the world. And I hear a lot from young people who are interested in running for office. And my question always is, what are you doing right now? You know, if you're passionate about running for office because you need more affordable housing in your neighborhood, well, I want to hear about the affordable housing organizations you've been volunteering for. If you need more jobs in your neighborhood, I want to hear how you've gotten involved in the labor movement. And, you know, we can get involved. There's a whole lot of ways to lead, to be part of neighborhood organizations, to be part of nonprofits, to volunteer for candidates who are doing something that you believe in. So, and so that's kind of how I got started, was by... No, but you also trained candidates first. So you know the blueprint. You know what I mean? So the dopest thing to me, for all of you all young folks sitting in the audience, Melvin didn't just get trained to be a mayor. He's trained other folks to do the very same thing. So yeah, I've trained candidates over the last, I guess, almost 15 years in over 30 states in this country. And you know, but all of that started with volunteering for candidates that I believed in, and I found myself in spaces that, and I really believe that if you do the work that you're passionate about, if you focus out. When I was on the city council, I would always tell folks the difference between the state legislature and city council is, if you think about the complex issues that stimulate your cerebral core, that's the state legislature. If you think about the stuff that pisses you off, right? Just making sure. Okay. If you think about the stuff that pisses you off, that's City Hall, right? Yeah. And in that way, the local issues just motivate people on a different level. And so, you know, when you work on something that you're passionate about, you'll find yourself bumping into City Hall or bumping into the school board or bumping into the county board or the state legislature over and over and over again. And that's how you know when it's time to run for office. I love that. So Steph and I are going to take these questions from the audience. Yep, we're going to take this Black Magic question. Is your mic working, or is it supposed to sound like that to us? I don't know. Is that how the mic's supposed to sound to us? We suppose? That's okay. Yeah, that's how it's supposed to sound, David. I was just kidding. I just got the cue. Yep. Hi, Cousin Angela. How are you? Good. All right, so my name is Kathleen. I'm from the Bronx, and my question for you is... The boogie down, down. Yeah. With the current administration being such a mess, like, what advice do you have for President Trump? Girl, what?
Oh.
Right.
He said, teach the baby. Take this opportunity.
No, he's not a baby. That is a grown-ass man, dog. Listen, I was just checking for pockets. I don't have any. I'm fresh out of advice for Donald Trump. Fresh out. Yes, on a wing and a prayer. What could I tell him? You know what I think I would say, all jokes aside, to listen. To listen and to hear. I think we can't create real change that's positive until we really listen. It's something that's hard to do from someone who's a talker, right? Someone who, I have a passionate point and think it's so important I gotta interrupt you. I'm learning to listen, and what I found from listening is that you find out about other people's true experiences that are divergent from yours. And the most enriching spaces to listen is to be around people who don't come from the same background as you, don't come from the same experiences. That is how you shed your bigotry. That is how you shed your blind spots and your bias. And so I would tell them to listen, and I don't have another damn thing for your boy, okay? That's all I got.
Find out. Next question, come right here.
Maybe Steph got this one. Come on, Steph.
How you doing?
Hi.
Thank you for all of this. It's a step in the right direction.
I'm loving that shirt. Come on, Colin. Come on, Colin.
Thank you.
I hope you're not watching the Super Bowl. Oh, okay. You just gonna wear the shirt.
now,
You
he's
look
not.
shady. I just, I'm a good lie detector. You looked in the other direction. I'm nervous, but I'm gonna let you ask this question. No.
Just
you're
don't
not.
post it on
Okay.
social media.
Okay.
Don't
so
watch it. I'm gonna get you.
My question is, majority of black men will actually not be victims of police brutality, but instead the educational system. What would you say to our community as ways in which to refranchise these disenfranchised schools without using the government?
So I actually love that you asked that question. The man who is touching your shoulder and holding the mic is none other than David Jermaine Johns. I said earlier he served, because I can. I told you earlier he served in the Obama administration. I did not tell you where, so allow me to reintroduce him, not myself. David Jermaine Johns was the executive director of the White House Initiative for Educational Excellence for African Americans. So at this point, I'm throwing out my lifeline and reeling him in. David, you have the floor.
I appreciate that, good people. So I'll say three things. One, and when we talk about black people, black men in particular, we have to tell the whole story, right? So we often stop by talking about the challenges, which are there are not enough of us graduating from high school, there are not enough of us going to and getting through college, and then there are also not enough of us showing up in the workplace, right? This is where y'all's president is lying, claiming credit for stuff that he ain't have nothing to do with, right? So there are three things that are really important for us. What we know is that for every one white boy who's suspended or expelled kindergarten through 12th grade, the rate is 3 times higher for black boys, right? There are institutional systemic practices that make it so that we are pushed out of the very spaces we need to be to acquire the skills, credentials, and relationships in order for us to be successful. The other thing we have to consider is that for every one white girl who's suspended or expelled, the rate is 6 times higher for black women and girls. Right? The national narrative suggests that y'all out here showing out because you are. Black women have continued to show up not only for our community, but for the entire country. Show up, show out, do that work. But again, there are practices, right, like a school district in Madison, Wisconsin, that makes it illegal for black women to lock or braid their hair. Right? These things have nothing to do with our cognitive abilities, but have everything to do with institutional racism. And so the thing that we have to do is, one, acknowledge that at present, the woman who's responsible for the Department of Education knows nothing about the public system of education in our country. She's never been to a public school, never taken out a public loan, knows nothing about what goes on in those spaces. So we have an opportunity and an obligation to make sure that we do the work to teach our babies. For black boys in particular, we have to talk to them about stepping out of the lies they tell about the ways that we're supposed to show up in the world, right? This is where we think about, Toni Morrison talked about black men being the envy of the world, right? That means that we need to be able to show up and show out, whether that's on the block, in the White House, and all the spaces in between.
David,
right?
great answer. This is what I'm going to do now because we're almost out of time. Stephanie did not get a question. Stephanie, close us out, sis. No, that's not for you to decide. We're actually on a time issue. I love y'all, but so we have to come back and do this, right? Yeah. But first, we're going to hear Stephanie's giving us the benediction. Take us out, Steph. What you got?
I mean, I would just say at the end of the day, we have to be a part of the process. And I know sometimes it's so easy to focus on resisting, but we have to also persist.
Say that.
We have to make sure that we are going to the school board meetings, that we're going to show up and make sure we have meetings. First of all, we know who our elected officials are.
Right.
And as much as I believe that Barack Obama was our magic Negro, I believe that. Black women are magical.
Right.
And there are more Barack Obamas out there that we need to support through our money, through our votes, through our time. So let's just make sure that we focus on what we need to do as a people first to make sure that we as Black people continue to thrive. And number one, that's support each other.
Yes.
So thank you for supporting us, Angela, and giving us a platform to have
Thank you guys for
real
supporting
conversations.
us.